Learn the latest news surrounding Armando Broja, as Broja is set to leave us to sign for West Ham. We have more updates on players like Vale, Gilmour, big updates on KOUNDE and Kimpembe, as well as very interesting news surrounding Brazilian WONDERKID sensation in Endrick from Palmeiras. So, a ton of things to break down and discuss, my friends. Again, let's try and get over 3k likes if possible, that would mean a lot, and get involved in the comments too, without wasting any more time. So right now, let's kick things off, and let's discuss the latest news surrounding KOUNDE and Kimpembe as well too. Currently, with KOUNDE, Sevilla are looking for quick solutions to sell the player. They're looking at the market, they're seeing the prices that players like Martinez are going for, players like Kimpembe are going for, Delit, etc, etc, and they're thinking KOUNDE is on the same parity as these types of players. So if you want to buy him, you're going to need at least 60 to 65 million euros to sign him from us. Now ideally, they are currently waiting for Barcelona to present an offer at least to, make some concrete efforts now to try and sign him in hopes of creating a bidding war between us and Barcelona. But as it has been confirmed now over the past 48 hours, with even more confirmation coming from your Romanos plus many others, we have recontinued our efforts to sign KOUNDE, and we are hoping to get the deal completed by the end of this week to sign the player. It does feel like we are trying to take advantage now of Barcelona by making quick efforts now to complete this move. We know ideally that KOUNDE would wait out and prefer to sign for Barcelona, but the reality is if they can't find ways to present the money, and ideally if they can't get rid of players to generate transfer income, it's going to be very hard for them, and Sevilla could potentially miss out unless they are very interested and excited by the possible player exchanges plus money, of course, to sell KOUNDE to Barcelona. These are still things up in the air, but you'd imagine that they have turned down player exchange offers before for KOUNDE, so I can't imagine they do that again, no matter how interesting the talents Barcelona are looking to offer Sevilla. Now, big updates today. It does seem like Barcelona may be very close now to capturing Azpilicueta at least. Alonso reports are saying that there could be a stall now over the price valuation. Of course, you want more money to release a player and sell him, but with Azpilicueta, it does seem like he's very close, and Tuchel has told the player, you can only go until a replacement comes first. So with Aspi very close to signing for Barcelona soon, maybe this tells us straight away that we are close now to capturing defenders, with KOUNDE being the main one we want to sign this week. Now what gets even more interesting now is that some reports are surfacing suggesting that we have presented an offer of 50 mil euros plus add-ons, but when it comes to whether Sevilla are accepting these terms, I don't know what to tell you guys, because on one hand I've been in from very good sources that Sevilla are refusing this, it's still below their final valuation. And on the other hand, I'm reading reports from the club suggesting that the club are quite confident that Sevilla would be happy with these terms. I can't imagine Barcelona would be able to match any offers we made for KOUNDE. And knowing that they can sign Azpilicueta once, of course, KOUNDE signs for us, I feel like it could work out in all favours for all parties. Finally, a transfer story that's been going on for over 24 months will finally come to an end within the next week, but normally when I even report stories saying by the end of the week something will happen, it normally takes at least 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks, but it's looking ever more likely now that KOUNDE should finally sign for us. And for me, I feel like this guy would be quite a very good signing and brings a lot of long-term benefits over many seasons. We now move on to Kimpembe, and it does seem like the final valuation that Paris Saint-Germain are saying for the player is around £42 million, which is around 50 mil euros. So that is not a bad price, and it's way less than the original 60 to 65 mil that Paris Saint-Germain were hoping to sell him for. But some updates have come out. It seems like we are still in very advanced talks over, signing the player and bringing him here. We know that N'Golo Kante and Thiago Silva have been doing their best efforts to, talk to the player, as the player is a little bit reluctant to leave PSG. Of course, their new manager at PSG seems very willing to give him chances. If it wasn't for financial issues, I guess he easily remains there, but this is a great opportunity for him to earn a contract that reflects his prime years. So Silva and of course Kante have spoken to their colleague and, persuaded them that you're making the right move by signing for us. So I guess that gives us the confirmation we need. So currently Tuchel is set to revamp his entire back line with Kimpembe, Kimpembe and Kounde. So that's like a KKK defense, and I'm not even going to continue on with that reference, you guys. I think Kimpembe should feel a bit more at home playing under Tuchel again, and in a system, of course, that gets the very best out of his skills. As I've really been stressing, if you were to look at the FBR ref stats of Kimpembe last season, I don't think it necessarily reflects the true value of the player, knowing that, you know, you're playing for Pochettino with no like proper structure to play out from the back. And of course, Didier Deschamps as well uses France in a completely different manner to how Kimpembe was playing under Thomas Tuchel. So we can definitely get some value from the player. Of course, though, I'm looking at things like, you know, deficiencies like the aerial ability, which I spoke about in yesterday's video. He is going to be tested in this league, but at the same time, you know, just because we're signing these guys, could there be an argument that they're not guaranteed dead starters to play for us? And the moment any defender slips, then they're losing their place for someone else. Let's hope that's the energy, but it does seem like Kimpembe and Kounde will be signing very, very soon. So right now we move on to the next big story, and let's talk Endrick of Palmeiras from Brazil. Now, I've got to tell you guys, I've been reading so much about Endrick over the past, 18 months. I haven't really made a video about this because there's been nothing concrete, but when you keep seeing these stories surfacing and coming out over the months, then there's definitely something happening here. And of course, it makes a lot of sense. Talents like this constantly have every big club talking to their agents, their camps, their parents, etc., etc., just putting out feelers over potential moves. It's just how the game works. So it's going to be no different that we'd explore trying to sign the very best teenagers in world football at this point in time. And Endrick, who is literally getting some top praise for what he's doing back in Brazil. Of course, some of the ex-star guys like your Ronaldos, Kakas, Adrianos, Peles, etc., etc. All seeing him as the next big one to blow and following their footsteps. And for me, part of me is just thinking it's way too good to be true. Like, even if we were to sign him, are we that type of club that could take his game to the next level? We'd probably have him doing some ridiculous things like, I don't know, playing back to goal or playing target man. I don't know. I'm being cynical. I'm being silly. Honestly, guys, it's stupidly hot right now, so just gotta bear with me. But let's focus on the news right now. A report came out from a Brazilian journalist today. And of course, Endrick now is getting very close to signing his first pro deal. A few days away, actually. We know that in Brazil, you sign your first deal at 16 years old, but you can't leave until you're 18 if you do get sold to clubs from abroad. Anyway, Palmeiras president Leila Pereira is willing to start accepting bids for the player now, and it seems like they want up to the tune of around 40 mil. Now I'm a bit confused because I thought Endrick had a release clause in this new contract set at 60 mil, but the report does suggest that if they're able to get offers close to 40 million, as long as they can sell him for more money than they sold Gabriel Jesus to Man City for around 29 million pounds, for them this is great business because they get to keep the player for 2 more years, whilst bringing in, of course, massive money to use to reinvest back in their team. Now, Endrick announced himself in the under-20 tournament in Brazil known as Copina, basically representing Palmeiras, and the guy was absolutely sensational. Scored the goal of the tournament with an overhead kick outside the box. Like, what in the FIFA Ultimate Team I actually seen? But a talent like this, where he doesn't even look like he's supposed to be 15, 16 to keep things real. But in Brazil, they have a reputation for producing the next best wonderkid teen talents, and I think Endrick follows in the mold set by Vinicius, Neymar's, etc., etc. Now, it's quite interesting that Endrick shares the same agent as Vinicius, and is it any surprise that every Brazilian wonderkid's dream is to play for Real Madrid? I hope one day before I die and leave this planet, that my club one day gets seen as a club that every top talent and every player wants to play for and represent. This story does continue on from many other stories that have dropped over the past few months and over the past 18 months as well too. Of course, there's lots of interest from not only us but City, United, Paris Saint-Germain, Madrid, Barcelona, etc., etc. And Endrick, his camp, and Palmeiras know of all this interest, and it seems like now will be the time that decisive action is taken surrounding the future of the player. It seems like Man City are currently ruled out of the running with signing the player. Endrick's camp did state that whoever Haaland signed for would be one less destination they went to, and I mean, come on, it makes sense. This is premium superstar talent that already has a big buzz beforehand, and normally these guys always come through. It's just kind of how it works. And I just think that if we have the opportunity, of course, to go for someone like this who at 18 will be ready, and we could potentially even offer this guy a striker role in the next 2 years, because realistically, I'd imagine we're still going to see a lot of movement in these areas. If I want us to see the ambition, you guys, you know what I mean? So share your thoughts, opinions below. Endrick, could it happen, or is this a dream that will never materialize? Right now, let's end things by discussing the latest on Broja, anjorin, gilmour, plus many others as well too. Now, yesterday I told you guys the day before that Broja wants out and he wants to leave to sign for West Ham. Now, we got some more context that came out today. I told you guys to get ready for the reports to come out tomorrow. And now we found out that, of course, Broja is not only returning back to London based on the fact that he does have like a bit of an ankle injury at this point in time, but also he's flying back as well to you know, force a move now to West Ham, because ideally we're still hoping that he can only leave on loan, but it seems like the player, by his actions now, is forcing a move to West Ham, who have come back now with a new and improved offer. Now, Broja has already agreed personal terms with West Ham, and at this point in time, I'd be incredibly surprised if Broja was to sign for West Ham and loan instead, as it seems like everything now is set on the player signing for them on a permanent deal. I mean, the reality is simply this. I think maybe as fans, but not maybe as sensitive or maybe as emotionally in tune with like professional players in the game, but I can tell you this, a lot of times these guys don't want to be out on eternal loans, because loans actually come with a lot of risks. For us, on one hand, we see it as a situation where it's like, listen, we're literally lending you out somewhere and you'll come back when options open up and present themselves. But the thing with loans is that it's very hard for you to build that continuity. For example, if he had agreed a 2-year loan with Southampton, that at least gives the player, you know, room and time to grow, and we can completely recontextualize what his loan move is ideally for. But he's already been at Vitesse now, he's been at Southampton. To go to a different club where you're at the mercy of, you know, new teammates, new tactics, new system, new way of playing, new relationships with your teammates in the field as well too. I mean, these aren't always the most ideal situations. This is why players aren't leaving their clubs every single year to go elsewhere. So I get the fact that it's quite clear that he wasn't given the certain assurances he needs. But on the other hand as well, I could also understand that even if he was given assurances, maybe his camp and team are thinking realistically, you know, they still have Timo Werner, they have Kai Havertz, they got Raheem Sterling. There's only 3 attacking options available at one time. You know, how much game time realistically are you going to get competing with that much experienced, proven talent? So I think maybe on paper it makes sense. And, you know, to keep things real, I think I've said this quite consistently. I've always felt like Broja is the type of player that needs like maybe consistent minutes maybe elsewhere. He's a great talent. I would have wanted to see him get minutes in pre-season to be fully assessed and looked at. But I think the reality as well too is that I think of a player like him in particular, and I made this Diego Costa comparison so many times, but you know, he could really blow up even more and level up if he has assurances of minutes in an environment elsewhere, and then maybe you're looking back at him and you're 24, 25. So it's not a surprise that if he is moving on a permanent, we are going to insert clauses like first refusals and of course buyback fees as well too. So let's see what happens. But I guess on one hand, before I end this point, I mean, we tried for Declan Rice for how long? And West Ham won't even entertain discussions around the players. So, you know, I hope we make things very hard for them. But I guess if we were to allow the sale on a permanent, surely we'd use this as leverage over possibly signing Declan Rice one day, right? I mean, I don't know. The guy has 2 years left in his deal. There's only so much that West Ham can do now. Let's watch this space and let's see what happens. But as I said, I think for me, if I was to compare Broja, I felt like maybe Tammy at the same age was better. And I think Tammy is maybe a bit more proven as well. So even though he's a big talent, I definitely would have been open to watching him play, especially compared to the other options we have in attack. I'm not too mad if he has moved on and sold, but now, you know, let's move on to the next players that are leaving the club. But before I do that, let's read out the statements made by Tuchel today. As he said in this press conference before the game versus Charlotte FC, listen, I would have loved to have had everybody here because Tino, Harvey Vale and Billy Gilmour have trained at a very high level, and it would also have been very nice to see them in some matches. But in the end, we had to take the decision to keep the quality high in training, so we decided for 24 players as a maximum, and that's why we went a bit smaller. Of course, the reason why I bring this up is that, you know, we got to talk about potential exits. Of course, guys like Anjorin, Gilmour and Vale have actually moved to the development squads and are training with the under-23s. Anjorin is close now to finalising a move elsewhere. He has a ton of interest from top half championship clubs as well as European clubs. Moving on to Billy Gilmour, for me, I've always felt like Tuchel just didn't really rate him. based on his physicality. I think Tuchel's always ideally wanted more physicality in the middle, and Gilmour last month agreed an extension that takes his contract to 2024. For me, I see him being in the same situation again next year, where, you know, he'll go out on loan again and still have another year left. For me, I think it makes more sense for him to move on a permanent and find a club elsewhere now. But moving on to guys like Harvey Vale as well too, who recently starred for the under-19s. A bit of a shame that he's not part of the squad, and I'm a bit surprised why, because you know, he only has 1 year left in his deal. And in situations like this, I'm just thinking to myself, is Vale looking to maybe play the long game and leave at the end on a free? Because, you know, what are we really doing to entice the player to remain and commit to signing a new deal? You know, at the same time, with some of the attacking talents we have, I felt like Vale is a guy that needs a loan himself as well. But my thing is the fact that no contract's been agreed upon. Maybe the player doesn't feel like his long-term career should be at this club. Regardless, you guys, that is all the news that dropped today. Please share your thoughts and opinions as well too. And on that note, I'm the EFC, this is BlueLionsTV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos. Cool.